welcome to the Propwash Podcast. My best friend, Lowrance teammate, ex-Shimano teammate, Predator guide for the Netherlands, Jan Boomsma. What's happening, buddy?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, all good. We are up here in Friesland, which is where you live, which is pretty epic. So let's kick it off. Let's kick it off like normal. So I don't even know the answer to this question. So explain to us all how you first got into fishing. I want the whole scenario. You set the picture. Was it like a rod in a grandpa's garage, or what was the first species of fish? Was it in a canal? Was it in a lake? Tell us exactly how you first got hooked on fishing.
I think when I was around 3 or 4 years old, my grandpa took me fishing
Okay.
on a small channel close to where I live, like 100 meters from our house.
And what was that? Was it a pole? Was it just a float rod? Or?
No, it was a pole, a bamboo pole.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And what, you were fishing just like maggot or worm or?
We were fishing with deeg, we name it in Holland, like it's not bread, but you make like a paste.
Okay, yeah, like bread paste.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, and what was your actual first fish? Can you remember it?
I cannot remember the first fish, but probably it was a roach or a bleak or something like that.
Yeah, okay, something small in there. So, and from that point, you obviously did that, and was it then always with your grandpa, or did your dad fish as well?
No, my dad didn't fish that much. It was mainly first with my grandpa and with the neighbor kids. And
so what, you'd go as like a group after school, or?
Yeah, mainly after school and on Saturdays with my grandpa, or on Wednesday afternoon.
Okay, because a lot of the time when we're walking around here where you live now, we see people regularly fishing in these polders and channels, they're fishing for, they're a bit of match fishing, bit of predator fishing. So from that point, you fish with a few friends and bits and pieces. How did that evolve? Did you carry on with the sort of small silverfish fishing, or?
Yeah, probably the first 2 years probably, and then I get my first casting rod, of course, and then you start to fish for pike. And
okay, so you quite quickly transitioned into fishing for predators.
Yeah.
So what was the sort of first? Was it a pike or?
Yeah, pike for sure. Yeah.
Pike, and that was casting lures.
No, with a dead bait.
Okay, dead baits. Yeah. Okay, and that was what, in the small canals?
Small canals, yeah.
Okay, so you started fishing for the pike on the dead baits, and what it must have been from transitioning from like small little bleak or roach to catching a pike. That must have, as a kid, seemed like
giant fish,
huge achievement.
Yeah, we were fishing for pikes like 45 centimeters, and I know quite well at a certain point we got one of 80 centimeters, and that was big. Yeah.
Yeah, huge. Yeah. Huge fish. So that was, again, still on the dead baits?
Yeah, still on dead baits, yeah.
Cool. So then you fish for those on the dead baits, and that's still what, like weekends or after school?
After school mainly, yeah.
Okay,
and in the weekends,
school.
Yeah.
And from that point, when did you sort of transition into the sort of lure fishing side of things?
That was quite a bit later, actually, because first after that I started doing pike fishing as well. I went into match fishing tournaments.
Okay.
At a quite young age. I was only 9 or 10 years old when I started really doing match fishing.
And that was in the junior match scene?
Junior match scene, yeah. And I progressed at my 15 to national level, or that I came in a national team. So before that, when I was like 12, I ended up in Friesland in the Noordpoort in the higher rankings.
Okay, and that was like general sort of pole fishing?
Mainly pole fishing,
pole feeders, float?
No, not so much feeders, mainly pole fishing.
Mainly pole fishing. So you were getting quite into your sort of, obviously fishing a short whip and a longer line, and fishing what would have been joker and bloodworm, or was it just more
mainly
maggots?
Mainly maggot stuff would you use, yeah.
And so from that point, you learnt a lot from the point of view, because a lot of predator anglers that I've seen talking to on this podcast, Adam Jones, etc., they fished a lot for the silverfish. So tell us about a particularly memorable match that you fished in those early years? There must have been one that stood out that you did particularly well on, that was like, you know, catching some good bream or a good bag of roach. What's one in your memory that sort of stands out from there where you got to that national level?
I think the one that was the Dutch National Championship when I qualified for the national team.
Okay.
I was not particularly catching really well, but I went fourth in overall.
Fourth in your section.
Yeah, and
Okay.
that made me qualify for the after selections, and in the after selection you could qualify for the national team.
Okay. So describe to us that sort of scenario that you were in at that point. What was the canal like? Were you fishing a long line? Were you fishing a short line? Was it a particularly tough draw?
Mainly in those bigger tournaments, you needed to be on the end of the sections.
Okay.
Because that's where the fish come from, and then you get first to the fish. And I was completely in the middle. So it was a huge achievement to get fourth when you fish in the middle.
Right, okay.
So when I became fourth in my section, what was in the middle of all the sections, you come to the after selection, and then then you have more space and there is less people fishing. So then you can really show your strength, because
Okay.
in those, if you have those big sections, it's quite a gamble.
So in that big section, how many anglers?
I think 20.
Okay, and you're pegged in the middle, so you potentially got 10 to one side and 9 to the other side, sort of thing.
Plus 2 sections on either side of 20 anglers.
Right. Okay. So yeah, really tough.
Yeah.
So at this point, you've qualified for the national team. You've done the national thing. At that point, what sort of got you to this point that you're at now, sort of with your predator fishing? What pushed you down that route?
There has been a lot of steps in between that.
Okay, so go on, fire us through.
When I was in the national team, I think I went in there for 2 years, and then I was at a point it gets like you get at a certain level and you can't get higher, or
Okay.
yeah, it was quite just under the top, but not good enough. And I was doing speed skating at that same point as well.
Okay, so it's, a balance of
A balance
hobbies.
things and what you like, and a lot of my close friends were doing speed skating. And in the national team, I was from the north. I was one of the only guys, so it was.
Yeah.
At that point, it came like my parents were like, "What do you want to do?" Because they were my private.
Choose.
Yeah, they were my private taxi drivers.
Yeah. Your chauffeurs.
Yeah. So at that point, I decided to quit the tournament fishing, quite at a rapid pace. I stopped with the national team for the 1 year. The next year, I fished only like 4 tournaments, and then I quit completely with tournament fishing for like silverfish and brim and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did the speed skating for till my 29th, so from 17, so 12 years on quite a high level.
And you came out of that from memory from a back injury?
Yeah, I had a couple times that I dropped, and yeah.
Yeah, so.
So, but while I did that speed skating, I did a lot of carp fishing, because that matched really well, and I enjoyed that as well. But
Okay, yeah, because I forget that sometimes that you're quite an accomplished carp angler as well. You go out and you do quite a lot from your predator boat.
Yeah, nowadays,
yeah. You got it all set up, and yeah.
So when I reached the age of 29, I quit the speed skating, and at that point I bought, around 25, I bought a boat for carp fishing.
Okay.
And I bought a boat that I could use for predator fishing as well. So I started with a little bit of trolling and then some vertical jigging, and quite quickly progressed in them. And then Herman, you know him as well. We started doing the national sander fishing tournaments.
So it was the NKS.
NKS, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I remember seeing that back in the day. That's dropped off quite a lot from what I see now. I remember when initially I was looking at it, and some of the bigger Dutch names were fishing that tournament, and like the prizes, I remember Luke Coppins fishing it, and that at that point you could still win a boat.
Yeah, a fully equipped boat, yeah.
Yeah, so that was quite a big sort of, but the NKS, that had different elements to it, didn't it? It like had, did they call it old school?
Yeah, fishing with a float and dead baits,
yeah. And dead baits, but also the vertical jigging, fireballs. So talk us through the rule format for the NKS, because that's quite an interesting dynamic.
The first tournaments, what we fished, you were allowed to do everything you wanted to do at that point. So the only thing you needed 7 sanders a day. So the total amount of centimeters of those 7 sanders, that was what you give the score.
So 7 sander a day, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you took those to another boat to be measured. Was
Yeah.
that right?
You could took 4 at a time
Yeah.
because you were only allowed to have 2 a person in the Netherlands by the rules. So
Yeah.
you could have 4 Zander in your boat. Then you need to go to a measuring boat, and they
And were
measure.
they in the live well?
Yeah, you put them in the live well,
Put them in the live well, yeah.
and you need to go in time because if they were dead, they didn't count.
Okay, good.
So
good.
in some lakes, you needed to go with 1 fish. You needed immediately to go there if they had a difficult time to recover.
Yeah. Okay, so you take those, you measure those, and they could be caught on dead bait, fireball,
Yeah,
lure.
lures. Yeah. And later on, they came with the different formats. You had the old school, and you had the lure only West tournaments. But that was after we fished it, when we already quitted it.
So you progressed into the NKS, fishing quite a lot with Herman.
Yeah.
And what year would that have been? Can you remember when that was?
Probably when I was still speed skating at the moment, so I think 28, 29 years old, so 10 years ago.
Okay, so we sort of first met in, well, it was this. I think it was possibly probably the third WPC, because I fished the street in the first year, I fished the kayak in the second year.
Yeah, we met in that second year when you came over with a kayak on the roof of your car.
Yes, so we met in that second year, which would have been 90, no, would it?
It was the 10th anniversary, so I think in 2014 something.
Okay, 2014. So we met then, and you fished the boat right from the start.
Yeah, the first year
So
I fished with Herman, and the second year as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so the first 2 years you fished with Herman, and then the third year when I was due to fish it with the legend Jan Porter, but Jan had issues, which we all know about. Yeah. So I fished it with Stu Dexter, but you were fishing with Chris.
Chris Blumett, yeah.
Yeah, and I think from recollection you managed a second?
Second place overall,
Second place overall.
Yeah,
which
still
was,
my highest outcome there.
Yeah, that's cool. So we met back then, and from that point we obviously became great friends. Probably like a year after that, I was still coming out and still trying to find my feet in Holland at that stage, and we met up and on the water, and from that point onwards we sort of made a bit of an alliance, really. I think sort of we gelled quite well out on the water. You came over, you saw I was struggling a little bit, pointed me a little bit in my own way. So from that point, recollection, that was about the time that you started to do a bit of predator guiding.
Yeah,
That was pretty close to the start of your...
I think I started guiding 7 years ago, so probably at that point I was doing the first guidings, yeah.
Okay, so talk us through the sort of the guiding thing. So I remember you setting it up, so you pretty much offer a guiding service for perch, pike, zander, asp, pretty much everything,
all the
really.
predator species, yeah.
All the predator species in Holland, but not only down in sort of the south of Holland, Hellevoetsluis and that, but you offer it up here where we currently are in Friesland
as well, and also in the middle part of the country.
Yeah, so you offer it throughout. So you provide a pretty comprehensive guiding service from that point of view. The people can fly in to
maybe Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, they'll fly in Schiphol, and then they hire a car. But you sort pretty much everything else from that point, don't you?
The accommodation,
food, boat, and if they're coming with a bigger package, I mean, I've seen people from like major corporate companies within the fishing industry coming over, and you can sort guides for big groups.
Up to 12, 13 people.
Yeah, 12, 13 people. So big groups, but you cover the accommodation, food, everything.
Sort everything out for them. Yeah,
and they can go out, and you've got guides, good guides.
Yeah, but I work quite often with
people that you work with on a regular basis that you can take out, and all of those people can fish on those boats and catch pretty much dream fish. I mean,
especially if you look at the perch down here, it's
Well, not so much here, but certainly down in the south.
In the south, that's what I mean.
Hellevoetsluis around there. Because talk us through, because there was a very, very iconic movie that recently came out, which was from Sodja, Sportfisker.
Yeah.
So talk us through that whole thing. We obviously, I've worked in the past with you and with Manuel, Peter, Martin Wasberg. You know, we've worked with those guys. They're cracking lads, those Swedes. They're really good fun. And you've guided them for a long period of time, but sort of they seem to have, obviously they've got a good gig now with Sodja Sportfiska. But how did that come apart? Talk us through the phone call that you had with obviously probably Peter, I would think.
Yeah. Peter set it up for them, and like 1 year, like the most purge guiding, it starts 1 year ahead because it's always fully booked. Yeah, so he asked for a spot, and we arranged to make a spot for them, and he came over with Nicholas from Söder Sportfiske, and at the last minute the weather was looking crap. So
as it always does.
Yeah, the weather changed so much down here, and always the wind and stuff. So the last couple of days before the actual trip, we were really talking through like, should we cancel it, or should we? Is there a way to move it, or whatever is possible? And at the last minute, like 2 days before, they decided we come and we will see. Even if we have like 1 or 2 hours to fish, probably it's worth it because the fishing was so good last year.
Yeah.
And then when they came over, the first day we needed to wait till like midday, and then it was just possible to go out to some spots. The first spot we went to, they caught a perch, but it was like choppy like hell. It was 1.5 meter waves, and the cameraman, I need to hold him to stand up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So after the first fish, we made another drift over the spot, but it was not properly fishing. So we moved to a shelter place, and then they managed to get 6 fish, I think, from the shelter place. So we had 7 perch already on the first day, included the 2 kilo, and or maybe the second one as well. So it started off.
So if people want to check this film out, what was it called? Perch Fever, was it?
I'm not sure.
Perch Fever?
Yeah, I think Perch Fever.
Whatever it was, Ben will put the link in. If you're watching this on YouTube, Ben will put the link in this either below, or he'll put a little tag in the top corner showing you exactly, so you can click on that and watch it, because the video is epic. So that's the first day when you've really struggled on it.
Yeah.
So let's move on to where it got really spicy.
The second day already, I think Petter caught at a certain point at 2.99 kilo, so just 10 grams short of the magical 3 kilo moment.
Yeah. And the 3 kilo, just to butt in there, is what everybody comes here for.
Yeah, the most people come for a 2 kilo fish. But yeah, Petter has been so many times, and he caught a fish over 3 kilo a couple of weeks before that when he was over with Martin and Manuel. So he was really blessed that he had another shot at almost a 3 kilo fish, and
that's what I think your Swedish clients tend to come over for. They want that sort of magical 3 kilo, because the Swedes can catch like. Well,
nowadays they can get fish over 2 kilo in Sweden.
Yeah, they can get over, but also lengthwise, they're getting them like, I want to say, 56, they're getting big fish.
Yeah, in the north there is some longer fish.
Yeah, there's some longer fish than we get in Holland.
Yeah,
but
they are still rare also down there.
The weight here is what people come for, or the Swedish guys come for sure. So he's got one at 299. Continue the story.
And that day was pretty good. I think we had 15 fish, and the next day it was quite windy, and we fished the first spot. They caught maybe 5 fish, and then we were drinking coffee and moving to another place. And then suddenly, somewhere near the drop-off, I saw a huge school of fish on the side skin. And I was not sure if that is perch or brim. And we checked it properly, and they looked like perch. Anchored the boat, they started casting, and what happened, that's something that never happened to me before. But I think we caught, like, in a short moment, like 30 fish, like a one and a half hour, and Nicholas caught in like 2 casts in a row, 2 fish over 3 kilo. So that's
literally unheard of.
Yeah, that's a dream trip. It's yeah.
I mean, I've been out here. One of the last days of the season, many years back, we went out and we went off of a particular drop off. Exactly what you described. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I did stumble upon some fish, and we had a ridiculous like 40, 48 fish. It was crazy. We were rotating from the front of the boat, cast, hook up, that person moves back, next person in, and it was just that. So those big females waiting to move up to spawn, and it's insane fishing.
Yeah. But it's just one moment, and you need to be lucky to hit that right moment.
Yeah, 100%. And that's
all the other days were good this year, but like that day was like.
So now your guiding has obviously March. How quickly does March fill up for you now?
In a day. When I open the schedule, I already have a waiting list of people that want to book like 2 years in advance. But I mainly keep it like maximum 1 year in advance, and then the clients of that year have the first choice for the next year. And
that's just crazy how that's taken off and how quickly that feels. But it's good because I've been there. I come with you on a regular basis. The accommodation is nice. It's clean. It's like what you see here. It's just a nice place to be. You're not roughing it. You're getting good food. You're getting a good guide. You're getting in a nice boat, and you're going out. The only thing that we can't predict is weather conditions.
the weather, and that's
That is what sucks. But you have to take the rough with the smooth. So, and up here you've done some guiding on some pretty big pike up here as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some huge pike, some huge zander coming out of the Netherlands. Talk us through some of the sort of the better sort of days that you've had up here. The bigger, more memorable fish.
Yeah.
Tell the one I want to hear on camera is, well, talk about the big fish. I'm going to say to you so that you know it and I don't spoil the story. The one that is on the cover of your iPhone.
That pike, yeah.
Talk us through that. Tell us the whole story.
That was quite yeah. I was guiding that day, and I had a client, and he caught already 2 pikes, 4 over 1 meter, over 10 kilo fish.
Yeah.
And he was drinking coffee, and at that point I saw on the side scan a big fish like 10 meters from the boat. And I was like, yes, there's another one. He was like, you cast on it, I have two good fish. And
how deep was this fish?
it was only in the spot like 2.5 meters.
Under the surface?
Yeah. No, the lake was only 2.5 meters. It was in quite a shallow lake.
Yeah.
So the fish was like half a meter above the bottom, so 2 meters below the surface. So I cast a big bait over it, and immediately it came, and I hooked it. And when I was fighting it after like a couple of minutes, I was thinking, should it be a catfish? Because it was so strong, and it didn't come up.
Yeah.
But it kept going like the long runs and stuff like how a pike fight.
Yeah.
And giving the big head shakes, and then when it surfaced, I was like blown away, like, what a fish.
And so talk us through how big was that fish?
That was 127 and 18.8 kilos. And luckily the first time it came up, the customer netted the fish, and he looked at the fish and he's like, I'm happy you got it because I don't want to take that fish up. He was scared of the head of that fish.
So Ben, at this point you have got to stick the picture of Jan holding that fish. It's unbelievable fish. Talk us through the one the one that you saw that was a couple of meters under the surface that you cast at with the rod that was used by clients. Does that give you a clue to the fish I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
Talk us through that story.
That was during a movie for Roofmeisters.
Yeah.
We had a good day already. All the pikes, they were like 20 meters from the boat, and we were casting towards them. And they were all like 90s, 80s, and good sized fish. And on the end of the day, we were almost finishing the day. I saw a really big fish hanging under the surface, but on quite like 30 meters from the boat. So I never made a cast that long that day. So I saw that fish hanging under the surface, made a cast, and I took it immediately. And it was a smash, like really hard strike. And on the hook set, I break the line on the reel. Because the day before we used that rod for zander fishing on the mussel patches. Okay. But I had some inexperienced clients, and they were dragging the lines really far behind the boat and stuff like that. And so probably there was a damage in the line, but I saw the line still floating on the surface. So we had another rod laying from the guy from Roofmeister. I took his rod, made a cast over the line, picked the line up.
Yeah.
Felt that the fish was still on line, so give him the line. Put my line through the guides of the rod again.
So at this point, just to clarify this so that nobody's missing this, he's hooked the pike, the line is on the surface, and he knows the pike is on the line, but it's not moving, and he's re-threading the rod, as cool as penguin's piss, and tying a knot.
Yeah, in the wind, but it was really hard to get a good knot, so I had a knot, reeled it on, and as soon as the knot was on the spool, I know, okay, now I'm safe, but it must not take a long run.
Yeah.
So I moved the boat towards where the fish was,
Yeah.
put pressure on it, and it almost immediately surfaced. And then I saw it, oh shit, this is big. And then I took it on and I was like, oh, staying close to the fish, moving the boat, following the fish,
Yeah.
trying to get it up. And after a couple of attempts, it came up. And I think the first or the second time we netted the fish. And the cameraman at that point hasn't seen the fish.
Yeah.
And Stuart has seen the fish, but we have it in the net. And I know the moment when the cameraman puts his camera over the head and he's like shocked. What is that? So wide and big pike.
Yeah. So how big was this one?
It was 1.17 meter, but 17 kilo. So it looked like a carp. It was like really wide.
Yeah. So shorter than the big one that we've just previously showed, but like length, but the weight on it is just going to be an absolute
massive,
beast. So big perch we've covered, big pike we've covered. So big zander up here in Friesland, you've getting some cracking fish.
Yeah, the zander fishing has improved the last years massively down here because
why is that?
We have a maximum length now on what you can take home.
Okay, so in the Netherlands, it's quite accepted for people to take fish for the pot, basically.
Yeah, mainly zanders.
Yeah, mainly zanders because it is a cracking eating fish. I don't eat fish and I don't kill fish, but it is apparently a very good eating fish, certainly for the Finnish and the Swedes. They're really big on it. So obviously over here people use it as basically to supplement their income and have as something for the table, which is fair enough from that hunter-gatherer point of view. So they take them, but the rules were always that you could take the bigger fish, not the smaller fish.
Yeah, now the rules were like everything above 42 you could take.
Okay.
And now the rule is above 42 but below 70.
Okay, so the
so
bigger
there is
fish,
the medium gap, the good eating size you can take, but the big ones you need to release.
But the trophy sport fish are now being preserved. So up here in Friesland and in this northern area, we're now seeing a lot more of those fish thriving and, being preserved. But also, we're not seeing so many of the fast boats up here, are we?
No, because the
it's
speed
quite
limits.
strict on the speed limits, so people aren't tending to come up here, which is really enhancing the nature and the fish stocks. So it's really starting to excel up here now.
Yeah, the fishing get better and better because of all the big fish stay in the lake and we preserve them.
You've got some crazy big waters up here. I think one of the biggest waters is up here, IJsselmeer.
IJsselmeer, yeah, but that one you're allowed to speed and there is not the maximum size rule, but all the smaller lakes.
But you need to have your powerboat too.
Yeah.
So the restrictions are quite strict on, but that's an insane.
That's a massive lake, yeah.
Like Ben will put like that up on the screen now. That will be like, you will see how big that is, and also put up that epic drone shot, Ben, of us travelling across there when we went across to pick up a trailer from the other side of IJsselmeer. That's iconic. That dam that was built, and it was like a joint effort between the Friesland people and
they started from each end and then connected somewhere halfway. Yeah,
there's those monuments to the stonelayers on there. It's a beautiful place to just go across, and that drone footage that Ben got on there is unbelievable. So we've now covered perch, we've now covered pike, we've now covered zander. What about your asp fishing? Because you've done some brilliant, like the stuff for Roofmeister.
Yeah, we had some good movies with them with
You've
asp.
done some unbelievable asp fishing.
And the asp is also a species that like 10 years ago or 20 years ago they started to come to the Netherlands. They also originally come from Eastern Europe, like the Donau Delta.
Yeah.
And they started moving down through Germany to the Netherlands, and they now really have a settled population down here, and you see some quite big fish in the 80s coming up.
But you don't realise, I mean, I was never really aware of those. You can see, hopefully, a link to our YouTube video that I did with a good friend of ours, Jelko, over here. But they're like the Dutch tarpon, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
They're like, explain how they hit, how fast you have to reel. Explain to the viewers.
They're super strong fish. It's like you need to fish quick, because if you not fish quick enough, they can see to good the bait, and then they just follow till the boat and then swim off.
So they're just fully reaction bite.
Yeah.
And
and especially the top waters, that's so much fun.
It's all top water, isn't it?
Yeah, top water.
They're feeding in the first, half metre?
Oh, you can get them deeper with deeper cranks, but mainly those baits you cannot fish quick enough to get them react to it.
So they're fishing there, and the strikes on the surface.
They are like explosions in the water. It's like,
It's somebody's dropping a television out of an aeroplane. Is how you can best describe it. It's unbelievable hits.
Yeah.
So we've pretty much covered all the species off now. But for me, our biggest thing that we do together and that you do and you've been successful is the tournament fishing. What brings you back to the tournament fishing all the time? Because
it's the competitive side of things. You want to win it, and you want to fish against those other legends in the sport.
Yeah, for sure. So we've done all right. We haven't done as well as you did before we became a partnership, but
we have won third place in WPC
we've
as well.
had a third place, but that's it was an early peak, wasn't it? And we're training hard to try and get back to that sort of
level and
that level again. And it's just, I think with COVID and all that shit, that messed it up a bit for us.
Yeah.
We had really good mojo going on before that, but it's been a struggle since then to sort of get back to that point. So
yeah, it's also a feeling thing. You need to be in the right move and have the right feeling with the water, and at that time of the year that you need to fish the tournament.
And I think also you need to, as a partnership, you need to gel together.
Yeah.
And at that point, we were fishing together a lot. We were guiding together a lot. We were doing a lot of social fishing together, and we were quite in tune, very yin and yang, and focused together. And that got lost a little bit over COVID. We missed a year of the WPC, first year that we both missed together, and then sort of we've struggled to get back to that point again together. So where do you're obviously doing a lot with Roofmeister, you're doing a lot of your guiding bits and pieces. Where are you going to take it yourself from here going forwards? What are your plans? You're doing a lot of your carp fishing stuff. You're starting to do a bit of the filming of your carp fishing stuff.
Yeah, filming of the carp fishing, filming of the predator fishing, and continuing with that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So have you got any sort of major plans on that? Have you got any goals with the carp fishing side?
It's the carp fishing I do more like for my own fishing, like the relaxation and taking a step back and just enjoying sitting in the nature and
enjoying that. It's good quiet time, the carp fishing. That was sort of, I've been there, I've done that, I enjoyed that. But for yourself, what are your sort of have you got any goals with the carp fishing? What are your PBs on the carp side for the people that
I caught a 24.8 kilo when I was like years back, but at the moment I don't have really goals to set. I like to get a 20 kilo back in the north, but when I have a 15 kilo fish, it's a good fish and I enjoy that a lot.
So for people that will have looked at some of our movies and bits and pieces, they know that you've really embraced the technology side of things from low rants and the fish finders and forward-facing sonar and all of that. So talk us through how that sort of evolved for you. So initially with the side scan, because I mean, you still see stuff that you go, oh, there's perch. I'm like, well, where? Explain it to me, because I'm still not up to that scale. You've spent so much time
that's
looking at that and
also what
how have you done that?
I love about the fishing is like you learn every day.
Yeah.
So I like to learn stuff, and when it gets too easy, it gets bored quickly for me.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to maximize, to get the maximum out of stuff I got on the boat. So everything I use, I want to know exactly how it works and what I can do with it, and in all conditions. And if I see something, I want to know what is it. So I cast a lure to it, see the reaction of the fish, how do they move, what are they doing, and
yeah, but that you've only sort of more recently learned on active target, surely, the reaction of the fish to the bait. So let's rewind that a little bit. So when you were looking at the side scan stuff, how did you learn that initially?
You can see the groups of fish. If you have a group of brim, like if there's 100 fish, you almost never have 100 big perch next to each other.
Yeah.
So you learn quite quickly how the silhouettes look on the side scan and stuff like that.
And you're looking at that from the point of view of the shadows?
Of the shadows,
far they are off the bottom? Because you always say to me, oh, that's brilliant, because that you can see how high they are off the bottom.
Yeah.
So explain that.
Sometimes perch will be.
If somebody's looking on a side scan screen, explain to them how you know it's a perch and how you know it's a bream.
The best thing to see the difference is in color. Like how brighter it is, how more chance it is that it is a perch.
Okay, so and I know that the perch are obviously brighter than the bream, but explain to us why they are brighter.
The scales are harder.
Okay, so the scales are harder, so you're getting a more positive, solid return.
Yeah, from a perch you get a positive return, from a zander. But for example, a pike has the same weakness as a brim, or probably even weaker, because the scales are a lot softer.
But you can clearly see the length, obviously.
Yeah, and you can mostly with the pikes I see it on the tail. Like you see the typical shape of the tail. That's how I recognize the pikes, and you see the fins below it and no back fin.
Yeah, and this is all on the side scan.
Yeah.
It's all on the side scan. And are you finding that you're getting more definition with the latest HD?
Yeah, they get better and better each new model.
Yeah.
You get more details out of it.
And you're finding that higher chirp on the low rent stuff is better in the deeper water. It's not so great in the sort of shallower water, but you're finding it better in the deeper, or are you finding it the other way around?
It's more important, like how clear is the water and how much debris is there in the water. Do we have a lot of current? Then you want to go with a lower setting. If you have like a really clear water, no moving, no weed, then you can go with a really high setting.
Yeah, so you're going on the 1,000 setting on like Haring Fleet when it's really, really clear
and calm. Yeah,
and calm. But all the time we've got high wind and we've got a lot of like algae or debris in the water. You're going more for the 455.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, no, that's interesting. So from that point, we've introduced active target, and you've really embraced that.
Yeah, that makes fishing easier for a lot of people, but it's also you need to mix it in your fishing. It is not only active target, because then the fun is going away quite quickly, because it's like looking at the television the whole fucking day.
Yeah.
So you want to, use it, but not use it too much. So where I use it a lot these days is like when we make a drift, I point it at a drop off, so I know, okay, I can keep the boat all the time, like 10 meters from the drop off, and then suddenly you see always the back corner of your eyes watching that screen, and then you see a fish pop up or whatever. So you spotlock the boat and make a few casts, either with a smaller finesse technique to see what it is, how it reacts to the bait. And
yeah, that's where the reaction comes in. I know that you sort of talked me through quite a lot, finding not only people do tend to think that the whole active target is, they say, cheating or whatever, but you're not using it always to look at the fish. You're actually using it to identify your distance from a set feature. So for example, a weed bed, when we fish together quite a lot, you will commonly set it up on like a 45-degree angle, I'd say, to the weed bed, so that you'll be pointing that at the weed bed, so you can constantly see that the weed bed's there, so that both of the anglers can be casting at that edge of the weed bed or fishing down that edge, because that's commonly where the perch will be sitting, or the
perch
zander,
or
pike, everything will be sitting on that weed bed, and they'll be ambushing prey. So if you know, and you can constantly see with your drift that you're lining yourself up, so if you drift away from that weed bed and suddenly you can't see it, if you've got it set to 25 meters range, you can no longer see that weed bed, you know that you come out, so you just push it forward with the trolling motor, and you bring yourself back in that casting range, and then you're constantly fishing that weed edge, which I think is just as important as seeing fish. And
I could do it with a side scan as well. In the past, I always did it on the side scan. But now with active target, it makes it easier to control the boat and stay in contact with that weed edge.
And I think it's very important that people understand, if you don't embrace this technology, you fall behind.
You fall behind on the rest,
100%. We've seen that with the whole American bass guys, the guys that aren't embracing it. And some of the guys in Europe that are more power fishermen and aren't paying the same attention to the active target, you see their results decreasing.
Yeah, but it's not always. It also depends on the weather. Like we had 100%. Recently a really tough tournament with a lot of wind, and then you almost not use it because you must adapt to the conditions.
Yeah.
So it's not a
100%.
thing that it is always necessary to use it. It is, you need to use it at certain moments when you get the benefits out of it.
But it's like any tradesman. It is a tool in their box that they need to be able to use to the maximum of their ability when that opportunity
Is there, yeah.
arises. So yeah, I think it's a really valuable tool. Interesting dynamic question that came up from a friend in the UK was, what would you say? I mean, you can give a couple of answers here. What things do you think have most changed predator fishing over the last 10, 15 years?
A lot of things.
So talk us through a few things.
We have a lot of techniques coming over from the US.
Yeah.
Thinking about like 10 years ago, we were only like casting with sheds.
Yeah.
Now the last couple of years, we got a net rig, we got a Carolina rig, the free rigs. We start using twitch baits like what they name in the US the jerk baits, and yeah.
Yeah. So, but I'm also thinking of things like braid.
Yeah, braided line. Yeah.
Braided line has made a huge difference. Forward-facing sonar
Yeah.
has made a huge difference.
And nowadays as well, the fluorocarbon coming back, like, or first it was mono, then it was braid, and now fluorocarbon is like the mixture in between of them. The fish can really hardly see it. And
yeah, and also from the point of view, you fish a lot of fluoro, like the US guys do, straight through on some of your setups.
yeah, but mainly for like when I fish treble hooks, especially for the perch, because yeah, with the braid you have no shock absorption, so you lose the fish if you pull too hard. And when you use fluorocarbon mainline, you have a little bit more safety built in, like.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting dynamic that you know, that whole fishing not only with the fluorocarbon but also the glass rods.
Yeah, the glass rods is not something I use a lot, but I use the fluorocarbon
to give you
yeah.
that sort of stretch and
Yeah.
that little bit of forgiveness.
Yeah, for sure.
In the rigs. I mean, I fish glass rods. I love them. I'm fishing them on braid, but I probably will look at going over to the fluorocarbon for getting the depth point of view.
Yeah, that's also a
cranks
thing.
down
Yeah.
a little bit deeper.
Braid is floating and fluorocarbon is of course sinking.
Yeah, which I did. I think I noticed that more in the latest tournament that we fished together. I think you were getting that little bit deeper, and you had that little bit of an edge on me from the point of view of the presentation, getting it down there into the strike zone.
Yeah, and also, so
current.
if you cast it out and you wait a second, you get it even like just at 10, 20 centimeters extra deeper, or sometimes
Which
even
is
a half
big.
meter. Yeah,
That is big because it's getting it, like you always say, it's getting it in that strike zone.
yeah.
And that's really important to keep it in that strike zone.
And there's a lot of things you can do with it to get it in that strike zone as long as possible. Like it's also the angle, how the boat is drifting, how you make your casts, how you position your bait against the current, and
Setting up the boat as well.
yeah, that's probably the most important thing, how you set up the boat.
Yeah, so that you get in that angle. So, what's in the future for yourself? What are you thinking? What are the tournaments that you really want to try and get into?
Winning WPC, that is the main goal for me in tournaments wise.
For both of us,
Yeah.
my friend. I think that has got to be the holy grail.
Yeah.
Out of all of it, there's a lot of other good tournaments out there. Some of which we've fished, some of which we want to fish. But yeah, it's just having time to do all of these things. But I think that is definitely one that we've come very close to.
Yeah, and it's one of the biggest ones in Europe you can win,
Yeah.
or probably the biggest one you can win.
So, what have we got exciting? I mean, I've just been fishing with the tournament, and we saw some really exciting baits coming out from Shimano. Talk us through some of the new stuff that you've
Yeah,
been...
I think the biggest thing is the new swim bait that came out, the Soul Swim. That is like for the pike, it's a killing bait at the moment.
Not only the pike though.
Yeah, yeah, the big sanders love them too. So yeah.
Yeah, that was insane. The hits that you were getting on. How big are those swim baits?
23 centimeters, and they knock slack in your line, and
those Anders weren't huge Anders.
no,
They were
65 to 70.
65 to 70 centimeters Anders. So Jan will send a picture to Ben, and we'll post the picture of those swim baits here. Now they are the bomb. They are really good, those swim baits. So, but also I was really intrigued with some of the stuff that we were fishing on the rivers with the flash boost.
Yeah, the flash boost in it. Yeah.
But also those bigger cranks, the darker cranks that we were fishing.
Yeah,
So
that's
talk
a
us through
different
those.
series, but yeah.
So talk us through the flash boost stuff first. That's like a sort of a square bill crankbait.
Yeah, there's multiple models. You have even jerk baits, switch baits, everything with it. But there's, I think, at least 5-6 models that have that flash boost in it. But yeah.
But that you use that more power fishing going down the bank.
Yeah, like the square bill. The square
it
bill.
deflects off the weed and.
Yeah, the square bill is especially you cast it really tight in the banks, in the rocks and reeds and.
But that in that yellow colour, that just seems to be.
That's one of the really good colors, especially in the darker water. And
yeah, and then what was that crankbait you were saying? It's got a much slimmer profile.
Yeah, the Yasai one, the deep diver.
Yeah, is it CC? I can't remember the model, but we'll stick a picture of it up with its back facing towards the camera so that we can show you the model. But that was just, we switched to that, didn't we, on a river day?
Yeah.
And it just made all. But
yeah, also the color and so it's quite often like when you fish for perch, like they want not every color.
Yeah.
Some colors they react to and they just hit it and you see their hook sets. They are just hanging on their mount.
Yeah, because they've struck it out of more of a defensive mode than an aggressive mode.
And then you just make a little
one.
Yeah, you make a little color change and then suddenly you hook them right in the mount.
Yeah, it was gone. It was literally gone. Just the bill was just hanging out.
And then you know you got a bait they want to eat. Not that they just wanted to have it out of their place, but they want to eat it.
And on the rivers, you think that was more that dark colour was more sort of goby.
Yeah, goby or crayfishy.
Crayfishy, yeah. So that made a really big difference. I think that was an important change for us, and that made a big difference. Not a big enough difference, but it made a big difference to us on the day. So that was cool.
Yeah, but that's also in fishing. You always need to stay like open-minded.
Yes.
Because sometimes you think, I catch on this bait, I keep using this bait, but sometimes when you just feel it's just not enough, there's always something there.
But that's like, I see you fishing in the rivers. We're both fishing crankbaits in like flow that, I mean, how fast was that flow? You had the ghost trolling motor on like...
Maximum almost, yeah.
Maximum almost. And you were fishing a Ned rig, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
You were fishing a Ned rig round on the flow like that.
Yeah.
Which it didn't pay off this time, but I've seen you in the past.
Sometimes it can be really effective. You just fish it like you're fly fishing. You cast it in a current and at a certain point it starts hitting the bottom, then you reel it in a little bit. So you want to just hover it over the bottom.
So you're fishing that on braid?
Yeah.
What's
with
the
fluorocarbon
diameter of your braid?
0.10 because you want to reel it in. And
okay, and then your leaders?
0.25 fluorocarbon.
And down to a, what, 5 gram?
4 gram mainly.
4 gram,
yeah.
Okay, on the Ned. And you're just fishing that round on the current.
On
so
the
it's
current,
really natural. So the fish are sitting there, presenting themselves, looking into the current, and you're just fishing that Ned rig round there.
Yeah.
It's been crazy effective.
Yeah, it can be really effective, yeah.
So, yeah.
But it's not a thing that always works, but at a certain amount of days it works, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good to just always be adapting and, yeah, changing to everything. And also, you've done quite well on the twitch baits and that. You've done well on the chat baits, twitch baits, everything really.
They're all tools you need to have in your box and use them at the right moment.
And just be competent in fishing them and know when to fish them at the right point. So, cool. Good, right, well that's sort of winding us up. One question that we always ask right towards the end is, what one thing could you not go on the water without? What is one thing that you would really miss if you didn't have it in your boat on the water?
Of course, your fishing rod.
Yeah, obviously. but what is something that is a tool that you're constantly using that you could not do without? Whether it's sunglasses, pliers.
In my case, probably sun cream because I burn always on the water.
No, that's a good shout, to be fair. That is a good shout to always have that.
Sun protection is like a huge thing, especially the last years with the hot summers.
Yeah.
You really need to protect yourself.
And the reflection off of the water. So it's not only the sun cream, but it's having decent quality UV shirts,
Buffs,
hoods, buffs.
even gloves.
Gloves, hands protection. your hands get absolutely hammered. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would say, certainly for you, but I think for everybody, sun protection is
It's a big thing,
is a massive thing. But yeah, thanks, buddy. It's been a really good catch up. Tomorrow we're going to go out and hopefully get some zander and maybe some big pike.
Maybe nice pike, yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be good. But yeah, so thanks, Jan, for coming on board. And hopefully you've enjoyed that. There'll be some links down below as well if you want to see Jan's predator fishing website and his Instagram page, which you can find all the information about booking up. Go on, fire off your Instagram and your website.
The website is www.predatorfishingguide.nl and Instagram is just Jan Boomsma.
Okay, so we'll stick those in the links below, maybe across here, little icon of Jan's Instagram, and then we'll stick his webpage across the bottom as well. But thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you on the water.
www.janboomsma.
The website for the guiding?
Yeah, Jan Boomsma.
No.
Taking the piss.
Jan Boomsma is Instagram.
You got to see the edit on.